My name is Cyndi Smith, and as Joe said, I'm a psychic, and most of the gifts that I have I was born with. I'm clairaudio, which means that I hear things. I'm clairvoyant, which means that I see things. I'm also an empath, which means I feel things from places as well as people. And I'm a medium, and the mediumship came later on in life. That didn't come at early childhood. But the other gifts I've had since childhood, most of the things that I found out about, I thought that I caused them as an early child. I didn't understand what the gifts were, and so growing up made it a little different and a little difficult because, as I said, I thought that I caused things to happen. Early on, I would be able to lay into bed, and at night I would be able to astral project at will and just spin out and go out into outer space and visit among the stars, and it was just wonderful, and it was as natural as breathing. And by the way, we do that a couple times each week, all of us, all the time. So it is a very natural process. At age 13, I had a near-death experience, and it started, one of my jobs was to cut the hedges with the electric hedge clippers. It was an early Saturday morning, and I wanted to get to the mall with my friends, so I stretched the cords out and got ready and had the hedge clippers out there, and the ground was still all wet with dew. So I kicked my shoes off, and I was cutting away, and I was just about done, and I stopped to grab some branches out, and as I did, I had the hedge clippers in my right hand, and when I turned them back on, I had cut the cord across it, and I was cutting the cord. And from that moment, I could feel the electricity running through my hands and arms and down my legs and out of my body. And I was stuck. And in my next moment, I thought, I'm going to die. This is it. And when I thought that, then my life, everything that happened up to that point, did pass in front of me. But it was not as if I was viewing it, but it was as if I was on the receiving end. So if I did something good, then I felt how it made that person feel. And if I did something not so good, I also felt how it made that person feel. So you become your own reviewer of your life. Nobody else is in judgment of you. You be in judgment of yourself. And after that, I could see myself standing in what I felt like was a hole, and I was surrounded by this magnificent grass and beautiful sky with colors that we don't have any description here on Earth. It was almost like psychedelic. They were so vibrant and so real. And I looked around, and I could see figures and forms off in the distance, which I knew were other souls and people. And then everything stopped, and there was this immense, beautiful white light. And I was filled with unconditional love, absolutely poured into me. And he said, Cyndi, turn it off with your left hand. And I'm thinking, if I touch it with my left hand, it's going to get stuck like my right. And I didn't move my left hand, but he did. And he turned it off. And I dropped it. And I screamed, and I cried, and I was fine. I was not hurt, I was not burned, I was not injured in any way. And later on that afternoon, when I was in my room, I can remember feeling like my room was crowded. It was packed, but there wasn't anybody there but me, but it was packed, guaranteed. My guides were there, my angels were there, and I said, okay, if this was God, then I want 3 wishes, as only a 13-year-old child could do. And so I said, the first one was, I want to go see the Beatles, because I was in love with Paul McCartney, and I want to see the Beatles. No lie, true story. And so the next morning, I come downstairs, and the paper was there for no apparent reason. I didn't read the paper. I picked it up, I paged through, and there at the bottom of the page was an ad for tickets to see the Beatles at JFK Stadium. Put the paper down. I said, that's it. You don't have to do any more. You got me. I believe. I'm here. So that was a real confirmation for me that I always knew that I was never alone. We always travel with God. Also, my neighbor brought in the cord the next day, and he said, because it was not cut through completely, and he asked how I was able to turn it off. I said, he let me turn it off. But again, nobody asked who he was. So I kept most of my things very quiet for a very, very long time, unless I really needed to say something to somebody. And then when I became comfortable, I started to tell people different things that I knew was important to them, to do readings. My first mediumship was getting ready for school one morning. I was in front of the mirror, and all of a sudden this voice comes in my head and said, "This is Rose."
and I need you to talk to Linda about her son. And she proceeded to go on to this big dissertation about how her son was doing in math and the problems. And I'm thinking, well, I've either lost it completely or some other door has opened for me. So when I got into school that day, I found my friend, Linda, and I pulled her aside and I said, do you happen to know anybody by the name of Rose? And she said, well, that was my grandmother's name, and she helped raise me. And I said, well, what kind of a person was she? She said, she was demanding. Oh, everybody followed what Rose said. She was really tough. And that's what comes through. When people come through to me, their essence comes through. That personality is still there. That very strong person came through that morning, who was Rose. I've been fortunate to help other people with that, and that's been a real gift. That's been wonderful. I've had a friend who lost a child very early on, and I didn't know the details. And again, she was a teacher, but I knew that her name was Jessica. And one afternoon, Jessica paid me a visit, and she said, you need to tell my mom to stop blaming herself. It's not her fault that I left. It was my time. I couldn't stay here. You need to tell her it was not her fault. So I'm debating, this is very touchy, this is a very personal subject. But the next morning I went in and I found my friend, and I said to her, I told her what Jessica told me. And she said she was greatly relieved. She said I had taken a weight off of her, and that it just so happened it was Jessica's birthday. So all messages are passed for a reason, and timing is always very important. I've always found that. So if a message comes through, it has to be delivered. And I feel like I'm the mailman sometimes, that it's important for me to get the message across. When I do readings for people, a lot of times their past lives will come through, and they will show me different past lives or different, for a reason, whether it has to do with another person that they're having problems with, or there's something in their life that pertains to that lifetime. I know this is not our only lifetime. This isn't your one-time go-around. I know we've been around before many times. It's like chances to take different parts in a play. This time I'm your mother. Next time I'll be your aunt or your uncle or your brother. We each change roles. We change what we look like. We change where we live. We change lots of different things. And each time is to grow and to continue to grow. Just like each year in school is a chance to grow and to continue to grow. It's the same here. We usually travel with our close family and friends, but we tend to, as I said, change roles. So a lot of times when you meet people, sometimes for the first time, you have that immediate, wow, connection. I'm sure you've known the person before in another time and place. And the same is whether it's a negative connection. Sometimes it's like, whoa, and that also pulls through. Not everything is totally washed clean as each lifetime is here. We still have some remnants left over. We are given the gift of free will, which means we can decide to do what we want to do with our lives. We've written out a very detailed plan, what we would look like, what we want to accomplish, what we hope to gain in this lifetime. But it's our choice to choose whether or not we decide to follow it or pick a different path and do something different. That's God's gift to us, is free will. It's an amazing journey. It's been fun, scary at times, but I'm very blessed, and I consider them gifts, never something that I'm afraid of. And I've probably heard and done just about everything. I don't think there's much I haven't at this point in my life. So it's nice to be able to connect with people that are of the same mind, because I can say pretty much, yep, been there, done that one, or met somebody who has. And that's pretty much my story. Those are just some of the episodes. If you have some questions, please ask about anything or about other episodes or something. Yes?
Yeah, past life regression, when you talk to people, I'm assuming that you're saying that these people had lived previously in different lifetimes.
Yes, we all have.
And that there is a form of reincarnation that exists for us here.
Yeah. I believe, this is my belief, I believe we have all lived in many lifetimes. I believe that Earth is school, and just like school, you don't learn everything just in kindergarten, that there's many different grades you have to go through. And so there's many different lifetimes we all go through.
How does it have Christianity? Other than the Gnostic Christians, like 500 years.
I will not begin to compare, everybody's belief is their own. This is just my belief and what I've discovered over time. I've discovered many lifetimes of my own. I've discovered many lifetimes of other people's. But these are my beliefs. I'm not saying they're for everybody. It's your own personal beliefs. So take it for what it is. Yes?
I had an experience that left me very shaken and puzzled, and I would just love to have your take on it. It
Sure.
was a few years before 9/11.
Okay.
And reading about Osama bin Laden and what a smart, talented man he was. And I felt very led to start holding him in light and love, because I thought, man, if he could shift, wouldn't that be fabulous? And so I was doing this on a fairly regular basis, and one morning was standing in my home in a vacation spot and looking at my kitchen, and I suddenly felt this extraordinarily malevolent energy looking through my eyes with pure hatred. And it felt very clearly like it was him. And I was very scared and very shaken, and I sort of mentally just said no and slammed the door, and it stopped. But I never have talked to anybody who could sort of give me a framework for understanding that.
Earth is probably one of the toughest schools that there are. There are many other universes and I will say schools to go to. And because I say that because there's a lot of dark and negative energy here. And as I said to somebody before, I don't think Hitler started out as a young child being who he ended up to be. And again, that's all by free will. We have the choice to choose whatever path we decide we want to go down. There is a lot of negativity here. And I think what you witnessed and what you experienced is basically a negative energy. Whether it was his or whether it was somebody else's, you witnessed somebody with very heavy negative energy that you were facing. And we've all come across probably people who pull our energy or drain us, and that's a very negative pull. When your energy, when you're with somebody and you come away and you're exhausted, they've drained your energy. Their vibration and their energy is less than yours, and they actually kind of siphon some off of you. And I think what you've witnessed, as I said, is a very negative pull, a very negative energy. And by saying no, you literally put a stop to it. But they're all around. Unfortunately, there is a lot of negativity here on Earth, and they're all around.
Sort of naively tiptoed in where I wasn't prepared for.
Perhaps not. But I think you had good intentions. Your intentions were good to send love to anybody, especially somebody who's a darker soul, is always good, because you want to then bring them to the light. Whether or not, in fact, that they want that is another case in point. They may not. Yes?
First of all, reincarnation is making a big comeback, pun intended.
Love it.
And I'm wondering if there, I'm hoping this is my last time around. Is there anything that
I think a lot of people are hoping it's the last time around.
I'm trying to get a break from flying. Come back. Just be in the other dimension.
We always are given choices, and there's, as I said, there's always other schools. You are given a choice. To be a guide, to be someone's guide, you've had to have had at least one lifetime here on Earth. So you can be the choice of being somebody's guide. There's always choices, and it's really your free will that will determine what happens next. It's not somebody else's. Because when you're... Trust me, we've all said that. I said that a million times. What was I thinking? I wrote this? I must be kidding. But we do. We write our lifetime. We write who we're going to be, what we hope to accomplish. We write it all, though, in a very perfect place. And so it's a lot different when we come down here. It's very different to all of a sudden be faced with some of the things that we've written and think, wait a minute, what was I thinking? But that's part of our journey, and it's part of our growth.
And also, I was wondering, do you know of any developmental circles to practice mediumship?
I don't know of any. As I said, mine came very abruptly, very unbeknownst to me. So I don't know of any off the hand. But I know that I am not, everybody has gifts, and nobody is exclusive. Maybe mine are a little more fine-tuned, but everybody does have gifts and abilities. And it's just sometimes reaching out and using them and practicing with them. Yes?
When you say that we have choices of being in other universes, to incarnate, so to speak, in other universes, when you speak of that, do you mean in this dimension, i.e. other planets that exist on the same wavelength, or put it in the Monroe Institute terminology, different focuses, purgatory, heaven, we can go to various other spiritual dimensions, or are there, and I'm assuming, of course, those things exist, but when we come into these other universes, could we be like Pleiadian, Lemurian, somewhere else,
Yes.
which isn't necessarily in this dimension?
Yes. Yes. There are other worlds, other schools, other planetary systems, which we've probably all visited and we've all gone to. It's just that one lifetime here on Earth can advance a soul probably tenfold as compared to other planetary systems, because this is such a tough school. Only the tough come here. Only the very best. Give yourself a pat on the back.
That being the case, speaking of other planets in this dimension, is there going to be contact? Has there been contact? I tend to believe that some of the UFO phenomena is legitimate, and if their job is to be in their dimension, their place in this dimension, our job to be is in this place in the same dimension, why the interface? What's...
I believe that there's definitely other life in other places. And as far as contact, I'm sure there has been contact. I'm sure there are those that are walking among us today that are not from here, that are from other places. It's just that they've put on the uniform of a body to look like us or to be like us in some ways.
From other places?
Sure, of course. There are many that are here from other places. Of course. Why not?
Are those people, are there those from Earth who do the same?
Very possibly. Why not? Why not? I can't believe that God in all his wisdom, and this, please understand, these are my beliefs. They're not, I'm not speaking for anybody but for me. I find it hard to think that this is the only basket where he's putting the eggs in, okay? This is it. Really? No. There's plenty. I think there's so much out there and so many different places and so many different beings. I often like to think of Star Wars, and I'm dating myself, but the very first, the bar scene in the first one, where all those creatures are around the bar. Why not? Seriously. It's just that I think we've all put on a body so that we look the same. But I think there are many people, many creatures from other places that are here as well, experiencing Earth. Because this is a free will planet. Not all planets are, but this one is. Yes?
Hey, Cyndi, I was wondering, could you explain the difference between clairaudio and maybe feeling something intuitively? We all might feel something intuitively, but how does it feel above to hear something through clairaudience?
They actually talk to me, so I actually hear their voices when they talk to me.
Almost like a physical hearing?
Yes, as if somebody is talking to me. I actually hear their voices. That's why I've said they've worked with me so long on just kind of mundane little things, so that I've gotten accustomed to tuning into hearing them. So when they speak to me, I know that, they're talking to me. I mean, it started at a very young age, but that's that's exactly what they've done. They show me pictures if they want to show me different things. And as I said, I'm empath, so when I go places, I feel things. A prime example would be Gettysburg. If anybody's been to Gettysburg, it's a gorgeous place, a beautiful town. To me, it brings nothing but sadness. I am so heavy when I'm there. I feel nothing but sadness, and I could not ever live in a place like that because it weighs very heavy on me. But yes, they talk to me just like you're talking to me.
How often does that happen? Does it vary?
It varies. Sometimes it's funny because my husband has gotten very good at listening, and sometimes he'll say, well, you're on this weekend, because I just kind of keep going. And he's learned to step back, and if I say something, it's like, okay, he'll listen and he'll follow. And it could be very minor, just everyday things, but they will tell me where I need to go.
Have you ever had any of your own family that have passed contact you?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, very much so, and that's fun too. That's probably been one of my saving graces, is being able to talk with my family that has passed on. Yes.
When you say they, angelic, human, both, and can you make a differentiation between the voices when they speak to you as to whether it's angelic or human?
I don't really know that I can. I just know that I call them my guides or my angels. I've given them names. I met my guide once, only because she said, well, I think it's about time I introduced myself, and so she showed herself to me. She was lovely. By the way, in heaven, we're all 30 years old, so that's the wonderful part. She was a lovely blonde-haired lady.
Did she give an indication as to whether she was human or angelic?
Human.
Human, okay.
Yes. I call her my main guide, so she's my guide. Very funny sense of humor.
I'm assuming when you talk to guides, you talk about angelic and human.
I do. And I will send my angels with people. I had an occasion. My son was in college, and of course, once you're in college, you know everything. He and his fraternity brothers were going down to a concert down in Tennessee called Bonnaroo. And I knew from the get-go this was not a good idea, and I kept trying to talk him out of it. And of course, being 19 or 20, you know everything, so there was no talking him out of anything. And I just waited. I waited for the phone call, and I sent my angels with him. I said, please protect them. Please protect the other boy who was in the car. I said, please watch over him, please. And I prayed because I was so afraid. And the third day, of course, I get the phone call. We've been in a terrible car accident, Mom. They walked out of a total accident without a scratch. Unfortunately, I forgot to pray for the person who they hit. She spent 3 months in a hospital. So I very honestly believe that angels can be with you and they can help change, but you have to be careful where you direct it, because in my error, I forgot to protect the other person, and she was very, very badly hurt. But they walked away without a scratch. So, yes.
What do you pick up of this place? Because I'm going banana boats right now.
It's warm, it's wonderful, because everybody has different things they bring to the table.
No,
There's,
I mean the place.
oh, the place?
Building.
Lots of history. Lots of history. Lots of warmth. I found it very interesting when I first got to know some of these gentlemen, especially Cliff and Joe, that I was kind of pulled into this group, kind of sideways back through Eben Alexander and stuff, and I wasn't sure, because you kind of, being the person I am, I haven't found too many places where I can actually say I'm comfortable around other people. So, and as I said, I usually kind of keep quiet. I don't usually bring a lot of who I am out right away. But it's been a wonderful experience and a wonderful chance to meet others. And I think this place holds a lot and is very open. And that's, I think, what attracted me the most, is the fact that it's very open to many people of all different.
Were you born here, or did you get a message to become among us?
No, I just felt like I was very comfortable being here. And so therefore, it was.
So you lady that works in the library, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was working with the library to make it work. Yes.
Do you think that they always get dinner?
I think as we ascend, it's getting thinner. I think as the ascension takes place and as we're all working through that ourselves, I think the veil will always be there, but I think we will grow as more spiritual beings and become more aware of who we really are, that we're not just of,
I think we're all on different dimensions, like, at different.
I think we're at different levels of that ascension, yes. And I think we're all in a personal growth through those ascensions. It's a very personal journey.
Because when I speak, people are like, what are you talking about? Are you
Not everybody is there. And it will take time for people.
all on different levels?
We are. We are. We're all on different journeys and different levels, taking our own times. Yes.
Do you see auras? Do you see, energy fields around people?
I don't see auras or energy fields around people. I pick up more sometimes on energies from buildings and sometimes from people themselves. I don't see it, but I pick up energy from people. Being an empath is difficult. It's very hard for me to walk into a hospital, for instance, because I feel the energy of the hurt and the anxiety that is in that place. So places are difficult. Sometimes I walk into a home, like I always tell my kids, I said, you can't buy a home unless I can walk through it first. I said, I know I'm crazy. And they all laugh. And I said, listen, and you always get to tell your children this, by the way, you picked your parents, so you get to throw that back at them. When they come at you, you say, no, you picked me. Don't be going there. So when they come back at me, I always say, that's my only request, is that you let me walk through the house, because homes and businesses and places hold energy. And it doesn't have to be a new place or an old place. They hold different energies. Some are great, some are not so great. I'll give you a great example. If anybody knows the Bluebell Inn, okay, go right across the street. The Bluebell Inn has been successful and there forever. The one across the street has changed hands time and time and time and time again. There's something wrong on that side of the road with the energy that goes on for about a block. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what caused it, but I don't care what you put in that building, it's not going to be successful. It's not going to make it. So there's energies in different places, and I pick up on energies of different places and people. When I meet people, I make a very quick assessment, and I'm usually 90% right. Very rarely I've been proven wrong. So I assess very quickly. I pick up the energies of people. Yes?
I have a very dear friend who has the gifts that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that she mentioned to me that resonates with what you said is the idea of reincarnation of the soul coming back time and time again. Our body is different, the soul is coming back to learn something that we didn't learn in that particular lifetime. For example, a person who's very greedy will come back the next time, maybe is or a person who has to work very hard to establish the wealth that they would have gotten very easily the first time to appreciate. Is that what you're talking about?
I am, yes. There's such a thing as karma. I believe in karma. And if you haven't learned something in one lifetime, it's just like school. If you didn't learn it in one grade, you're going to have to repeat it and figure it out in another. It's very similar to that. We all have different things we need to learn and work on. And if somebody is very greedy in one lifetime, chances are very good you're going to come back to learn what it's like to be very poor, perhaps in another lifetime.
So the idea of a new soul or an old soul is very real.
Oh, yes.
In terms of that.
Oh, yes. I teach little children. I teach pre-K, and I can tell you that I meet 4-year-olds that are very, very old sometimes. And I meet some that are very, very new, and some that are very gifted. So it's children are very open, and they're some of the best transmitters. Animals are so gifted. And they're just pure love. They just go straight up. I mean, they've got an expressway to heaven. They're pure love. They really are. Animals are wonderful. And they're all waiting for you up there, by the way.
That makes me feel good. My younger son had a cocker spaniel, and he used to always say, he's been here before.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're just wonderful. You had a question.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to ask this. I was raised to believe that you always have, everybody
you talk to your higher self, like what is the difference between your guides and your angels, and everybody has that? And
Yes.
are we able to?
Yes.
Okay, and what is the difference between your higher self and your guides and your angels?
Well, your guide is actually a soul just like you, who's had at least one lifetime here on earth, who you've made a contract with. Before you came here to earth in this lifetime, you drew out a very in-depth contract. You wrote what you wanted to look like, who you wanted to be, things you wanted to work on, who your parents were, obstacles you wanted to overcome. You wrote a very detailed life. And by the way, you've also put in exit points. You write in your own exit points, about 4 or 5, and you get to choose which ones you want to take finally at the end. So a guide is somebody who's also had a life, but you know this person very well, and you said, I want you to help me. And they are there literally to help you. They are to try and keep you on course. That is their purpose. And they are with you from the first moment of your breath to the very last. And they are with you throughout your life. And you also have angels. Angels are not humanoid. They are of a different realm. And they're here to help, and they many times can intervene, whether it's for health issues or whatever it is that you need their assistance for that's a little beyond, even if it's changing course or asking for maybe even a miracle at times. They're here for it as well. They may not deviate off your course or change it if that's what your soul really needs, but they're always with you. You always have a guardian angel with you. And at times you may have more. Their higher self is like a collection of, this is one part of me. My higher self is a collection of all my lifetimes, of all my incarnations would be my higher self. And that is really found up in heaven. This is just a part of who I am. Okay, it's not my whole self. Does that help? Yes. Okay. Yes, sir.
Now, are there some angels who have been human beings, or is that part of the elemental evolutionary?
Angels are angels. They're a different entity all unto themselves. They are God's, basically for God's creation. There's different realms of angels, and there are different jobs that they do, but they are not, nor have they ever been humanoid, nor they want to be. And they're really androgynous, I believe is the correct word. They're neither male nor female.
What do you think of like tarot, crystals, pendulum?
Yes, tall. Whatever works for anybody is yes. Everybody has different ways to do things and different mediums to use. Yes, all of them. And crystals are another thing that talk to me all the time. Yes, sir.
Cindy, are you familiar with the Tibetan Bardo, where Tibetan Buddhists believe that when we die, the consciousness goes into a Bardo for 49 days, when you actually choose your next parents, and you come back to deal with the karma. And are you familiar with the Kabbalists, the Jewish mystic, who also believe in reincarnation and that to correct themselves? They have 6,000 years to do it.
6,000 years to correct
Yeah,
themselves?
we got 230 years.
Well, I got a long way to go then, man. I don't think I'm done.
Those are types of reincarnation that I found out from myself.
I don't know that I'm a true believer in anything except that I know that I've been back before, and I guess I'm not done, so that's why I'm back again. So I've heard, as far as my belief, I believe that we go back to heaven and kind of reassess. I know that we judge only ourselves, that there's nobody sitting in judgment of us when we go back. We're only in judgment of ourselves. And that we do get to choose kind of what we want to decide to do again, to either balance karma, to work things out, and to choose our next lifetime. And when we come back again, it's our choice. We do get some rest time, some downtime, so before we come back. Ted?
I was really interested in the fact that you had a lot of out-of-body experiences when you were young. Did they like slow down, or do you ever have any more that you're aware of?
I still do, and I still travel, and there's many times when I do travel or go back, they're very vivid memories. It's not something you soon forget. So I can't do it at will like I used to. I can remember the feeling and the vibration and being able to do it, but I still know that I do it quite a bit, yes.
Do you mind if I answer that question?
Please.
One reason why little children, especially under like 4 or 5, want to have a night light on is, it's like the energy that goes out is like what drives the carbon-based mobile unit, and sometimes that energy is not, they're not so good at getting it to come back in when they're asleep, so it needs a light to find its home base, and that is truly, and we lose that. I've had little kids say, well, but I remember from beyond, and then as they get more acculturated, they, in their conscious mind, lose it. But I say, remember this now, huh?
Around age 7.
Sure. My youngest daughter, I'll just share this one story, but she was probably 2.5, maybe 3. She was sitting on the floor one time, and she had my other 2 super balls. I don't know if you remember, there's the little round balls, and she was very, very, very carefully making this very, very large triangle on the floor, very precisely. And so I asked her, I said, what are you making? She goes, I'm making a temple. Now, we were raised Presbyterian, and temple really didn't cross into that realm very much. And I said, oh, okay. I said, that's very interesting. And then she looked at me and she said, do you know how old I am? I said, no, how old are you? She said, I'm 8,000 years old. I said, you probably are. So children do. They have tremendous memory. Yes. Yeah, they do. Yes.
Do you have a memory of other lifetimes when you're also a spiritual medium or something similar to that?
I've been told by other psychics as well that, yes, I've had this gift before in other lifetimes, and some I've known about. So it's something I've carried with me, which is kind of interesting and fun. I guess it's who I'm supposed to be, a teacher. Yes?
Were you ever able to leave the realm of gravity, and not on one of your excursions, but just float a little bit, or anything like that? Especially perhaps as a young child.
As a young child, I could probably do more than what I could as an adult, or as I got older. I was much more willing to just kind of let go, and I think I could at the time, maybe. Not that I don't remember doing anything particularly, except that I remember being freer, and I know that this body is not how I was supposed to look, and I can remember arguing with my mom. My hair's supposed to be darker, my skin's supposed to be darker, I'm supposed to be shorter. So I knew I didn't look like this at all, and I was not pleased with the way I was turned out. Yes? I do readings for people, whether it's past life or whether it's, and I always tell people I'm not in control. What comes through is what they're telling me. I kind of turn it over to them. I've had some readings where I'm not happy because I didn't like the way it turned out, but there's always a reason for what comes through. And yes, I do readings for people. Yes?
When I was a child, I had a recurring dream of being chased through very wild woods by a pack of wolves. And I would always survive, but I'd get ahead and then feel like they were catching up with me. And I know that's not uncommon. But a few years ago, we were watching a documentary about some part of Yugoslavia. And I looked at this picture of the woods, and I recognized it. So would you say I actually was there?
Yes.
Then
Yes.
that would be why.
Mm-hmm. You spent a lifetime there. Many people, when they travel, will all of a sudden go someplace and it feels like, wow, this feels like home, as you just did with, a picture of Yugoslavia. I'm sure you've spent another lifetime there.
Well, and it was the woods from the dream.
And you were probably chased by the wolves, and you may have, hopefully you outran them, but who knows? That would be a good thing. But yes. Yeah.
We have dreams of flying or dreams of being able to swim underwater and be able to breathe. Are there places where our spirits go?
Yes.
That's sort of recreational.
Yes. We do fly, and that's wonderful. We do fly all the time. There are other worlds where you can swim underwater and breathe. So there are other places where you can visit. Speaking of my daughter, talking about flying, she came down one morning. Again, she couldn't have been more than 4. She said, "Mom, I can fly." I said, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, I flew around the backyard last night." I said, "That's awesome." She was astral projecting. I didn't tell her that, but she was having fun. So, and yes.
What did you say to your children as they were growing up?
I didn't really, I just told them that there were parts of me that were maybe a little different from other people, and that I knew things. I knew each one of them before they were born. I saw them. Especially my youngest, when she was born, the very first thoughts was, "It's so nice to see you again." Was my immediate thought when I saw her. I know they all have they have some gifts too, and as different things happened, we talked about them. I never hid anything from them. We always talked about different things, so I always left the door open so that they kind of knew who I was and what it was all about, and they could explore that side if they wanted to. I never pushed it on them, but I was always very open and honest with them. So, yes.
Could you just, they talk about that you start off as a bug and then you're an animal and then you're human. Once you're human throughout lifetime, that's it, you're not reincarnating, you start off.
Well, I think humans start off as humans. I've never heard of being a bug, but yes, you're a human, you're a human. You don't go back to bugs or anything. No. Any other questions? Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.